Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Oh, you
Thank
did?
you.
I also did. I don't know who's the
It doesn't matter.
You
It'll be
store it
only,
one place.
it will be only recording once. Don't worry.
One.
It won't be like 3 recordings coming out now.
And somebody did it at the start also.
All right. So yeah, so that's the point. One of the point, area 5, about the SDK. I don't know if there are other updates on any other task. If anybody can update, that will be fine. Or else we'll see other topic.
Yeah, so the only
Steven?
thing I'm asking is for next week's summit, all the speakers, presenters for the SDK sessions, I'm hoping you guys are, working towards that. So the idea is we have 45 minutes for that slide. I'm at least giving 5 minutes also to Tao for nephew experimental. And then I don't need 10 minutes for overview. So you guys get at least about 10 minutes each. So that would be Sandeep, Liam, and Vim. So
Yeah.
just a heads up.
Steven, my part was more on the SDK for specialization, right?
Okay.
But I can mix it. I mean, I can mix it if you want. But I thought we mixed that in there. But okay. I mean, yeah, whatever we want to do.
Okay.
Yeah, I see the agenda. Fine, no problem with that. And
okay.
Liam's
not here, but yeah, so just a heads up. So we're not going to meet again before next Monday, which is when this takes place. So just want to don't be surprised if I put you guys on the spot and say, hey, present something. Actually, I think before then we have to submit the presentation slides to Kandan, I would imagine.
When is that? When is the last date?
He never said. Actually, that's a good point. I should ask him. Yeah, because what he wants, which is like last time, is he wants a single deck so that we don't switch around. So everyone is basically So he's gonna put everything together in a single deck. So he asked for submission at some point. I don't know what that some point is, but I'm guessing before Monday. So
yeah. Okay, I think.
So let me clarify.
Some template is there? Is there some template, like whatever the template SIG people have used? We can use the same.
So let me go see if Kenny gave us something.
I mean, this is what I see in SIG1 they have done. Is there a template? I think
we use Google Docs, Google Slides,
Google presentations. Yeah, I would. That's for sure. I mean, we can upload a PPTX, a PowerPoint to Google presentations too. I mean, if that's what you're using.
So we have to share the link, Google Doc link. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, because now I realize, because none of you guys actually presented on the last summit. So Kandan has a thing where he wants to have like a single master deck. So people don't switch around between the things. There's no technical difficulties where people plug and unplug computers and stuff. So
that's the point. Yes.
Yeah. So let me clarify with him, when do we need that? But yeah. So definitely before Monday. I can tell you that. Yeah.
So when you share that, maybe we can start putting that in.
I'll put it on Slack.
Yeah, and that link maybe we can start putting out in the same Google Doc. Okay, fine.
Or just submit the presentations. That will copy the presentations into the master. That will probably do that.
Okay, fine. Okay, and
meaning that share the link. Submit. Share the link. And then,
share the link exactly. Share to you.
Okay. Yeah. Other than that, nothing much. We'll hopefully see you folks next Monday. Then we can talk about doing things.
Yeah.
Maybe one thing I wanted to maybe discuss a little bit. I think given that Liam and Fiacre is also here, and I think so on the point of I think in the last meeting I made the remark that doing plain a flux or helm or something like that for the framework that we have in place is going to be a bit challenging. I don't know whether we agree to that or not. That's basically what I wanted to discuss.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
we'll,
anything from Fiacra to make the point of flux?
I'm talking
Yeah.
specifically to NF functions right now, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I guess the Flux POC wasn't purely focused on the, which it probably should have been, yeah, but it wasn't purely focused on the. We did test the FreeFlow-GC charts, obviously, but not extensively, and with all of the network etc. Sorry, Liam is away, but Liam couldn't attend today. But
Okay.
I understand your point, and it's something that keeps being raised in that the Flux or Argo, or they're not, they don't follow the same
Yeah, what I'm actually advocating somehow is that we need some level of sandwich approach. I'm not sure which one is for me open, right? But we can also change the architecture, by the way, right? But in the current framework that we have, so that's basically where my comment sits. For NF deployment, you need some level of pre-processing before you execute Helm. And given that you need to check the existence of the resources and stuff like that, you cannot really do it at the management cluster. So you have to do it at the workload cluster, which means that anything you do, like Flux for me is basically an alternative to config sync, right? So I just wanted to clarify why I'm making that statement. And this is the same for the Helm operator, by the way. So it's the same if you look to the operator SDK. So you need to basically do something ahead of it. And for me, that invalidates somehow these approaches.
But is there not room there? Is there not room within, I'm going to use some words I don't fully understand, but in terms of specialization pipeline, could that not?
Yes, but the problem, so you can do
not?
so. But for example, the annotation of the pod, right, with the NAD, right? So we can do. So today, what happens in the operator is that first of all we check whether the NAD. We don't basically deploy the operator before the NADs are applied to the cluster, so that they are existing, right? Because otherwise you deploy and then you get all this race condition and it restarts and it stops and blah 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 blah. So this is something that we added in the beginning. We didn't do it, but we added that to do that validation before we deploy, right? So we wanted to check whether all the NADs are actually available in the cluster, which is at the workload cluster, before you actually deploy.
Oh, actually, the operator actually checks that anyway.
Yeah.
But does that not not then lead into, obviously pre-checks and stuff like that, but obviously, in terms of dependencies that packages may have, which,
yes, but the problem is
another issue that hasn't really been solved, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, but the question is whether we have to put all that complexity ahead of time to be able to use these type of tools, right? So the question is, because now you're creating a dependency on a dependency controller before you can execute. I always believe that you have to, if you have a dependency, that you should validate it yourself. At the last moment, because otherwise you're basically saying, okay, unless this happens, I can work, right? Which is, for me, is not a good design. Because if the thing on top is not doing the job, right, you fail. You see, that's my reasoning, basically.
Okay, so you're advocating not having dependencies checked?
No, I'm not saying that, not at all. But for example, if you as an entity that needs to be deployed need this thing, you should check it, right? I mean, there's no point in relying on something else before you to do so, and that can happen. I mean, whether that happens or not for you, it doesn't really matter. I'm talking about a robust software architecture. I mean, that's my personal view. I mean, if I need if I'm depending on something that needs to be there, I rather check it myself than trying to be relying on someone else to do so. Because if the other guy doesn't do so, I will fail. You see, so that's my reasoning why I'm of the opinion that these checks should happen at the moment where you need them. But they can. I don't exclude that they can happen before, right? So that's an option. But my point is, if that thing on top doesn't do the thing, then I should not build software that fails.
I understand. Yeah, I'm not. Maybe I'm taking the discussion in a different direction. But I remember there was some talk around developing an operator which would handle the dependencies between packages.
Yes.
Was that?
Yes,
yeah.
And we are discussing that on NF2 infra, but I mean, it might or might not solve this case.
Yeah, you know, I'm not the flux approach was a POC. I know we kind of we pushed it into, you know, to maybe just ultimately to ease the onboarding learning curve for new vendors. You know, with pure Helm, that's just the difficulty. And there are many. There are other solutions like Gargo. There's other, and then, you know, the operators.
I gotta say, I never ran the Flux. I think it's called the Flux controller, right? The Flux controller, not the Flux, the Helm controller. So the Helm controllers from Flux, the Helm operator is from Operator SDK. So from the Helm controller exposed a set of CLDs that points to a repo actually, and a particular Helm charts and a particular version of the Helm charts.
Pretty much,
and then so when you updated that CLD to CL, the Helm controller fetches the latest Helm charts.
It triggers a reconcile,
and then within that it would contain the values.yaml already, so it would basically deploy that Helm chart onto the cluster.
Unless it's referencing a config map. So
what would happen if it's referenced to a config map? So it doesn't deploy; it would just sit there and.
So it would use the local config map to deploy or to update itself.
The config map would contains the value for your values.yaml. Basically.
And as Tal mentioned before, it's a string. It's not really, you know, it's not a valid
They'll probably JSON-file the whole thing anyway at the end. But anyway, so the idea would be, if we're using Flux, the whole thing, the lifecycle management of the Helm charts goes into Flux. We'll push it into Gig. So let's assume Gig access is there for workload clusters. Then the idea would be we auto generate the config map and push it in, while with the change of config map is going to trigger the Helm controllers to redeploy the charts, right? I'm guessing.
Change on config map, possibly not, but there's a missing theoretical part of the flow, if you like, in that and Vim, you've been privy to the conversation and others, but there will be some mechanism there to pre-process and provide the values.
Yeah, so that's Nephew specific. We have to write that no matter which direction we go. So someone has to write that. So after writing this, whether or not this becomes a CL for, say, the operator SDK case, it becomes a CL. For this particular case, it becomes a config map. And then that the pre-processing translates your vendor extension CLs and the Nephew CLs into what you need to actually deploy this Helm chart. That would be in the format of whatever. So in this case, you said is config map. So config map get pushed. We just need some mechanisms to basically ask Helm to, or the Flux to actually redeploy it, because that's almost like operator SDK.
So
in a way.
So, so are we going in this direction? So let's take some sort of decision here. I think we've been discussed about flux and all these things for, I think, extensively. So one point I think I understand is that, are we going in this direction? Like initial, what I understand is not the right choice, in my opinion, is what he's saying. So if we're going in that direction, so are we taking some sort of a POC task to adhere to the what nephew wants right now in this meeting?
I think it's worthwhile. Maybe I'll take on that after NF deployment, NF topology. The idea is, if I write some sort of things that would take, let's say for FreeFiGC, it would take, well, UPF is crappy because it has no extensions, but maybe SMF, I'm not sure. So we would, or maybe just make one extension, which is the image path. Use that as an extension. So we would write a thing that would preprocessor that would take NF deployment and this one little extensions and send it to generate a config map and see if we somehow trigger flux to redeploy. I just want to see whether or not. So what's the thing that actually is stopping us from doing that? Is it something that is very, is it blocking design wise? Because Vim's point is it's not aligning with the design, with architecture in general.
Yeah,
But doing that pre-processing is not easy. I also believe, Stephen, if you go to the direction that we go today, the NEDs are kind of implicit, right? Reference. I'm also of the opinion that we have to reference them as config refs. So in the, parameter refs going forward. Because that means that, yes, because these are all resources that you expect in that NF deployment to be there before you actually continue the deployment, right? So that's for me what the parameter ref is. All of these resources should be actuated on the cluster and in a ready state, if you can check it, before you actually deploy, right? These are all kind of preconditions that are explicitly mentioned.
Okay. So
as such today,
in
NEDs,
that case,
we
the
did implicitly...
the NED generations would happen outside of the Helm charts.
Yeah, so there is two things that we have right now. One is the pre-processing. The second thing, I think, what we do in Nephew today is we want to decouple the infra from the NF, right? Which means that even in Nokia today, we have NEDs. We generate NEDs, but my personal view is this is wrong. I mean, this is not right.
I remember seeing your Helm charts. Your NAD is part of the Helm chart.
Yes, yeah. So I told it 5 years ago. This is not going to. We'll have to change it at some point. So that's why, for me, there is two things. The one is we have to do this pre-processing. The second thing is we have to update the Helm charts a little bit, so not too much with this. If I call it the if Nephew statement, don't execute this. What we can also do, so that's another thing, is that we could, if you do the sandwich approach, when you render the Helm chart, I think Sandeep, with your approach, or when we use the regular Helm rendering thingy, we could actually remove, we could, I don't know whether it's, I like it from a design point of view, but if we don't want to update Helm charts at all, what we could do is we can do some post-processing to actually remove some of these resources.
Strip the NAD.
That sounds very hacky, actually.
Yeah, correct. I agree. So that's why I did not bring it up so far, but we could even do something like that if we.
But are you going to hit the issue with? But your issue with the network attachment definition issue is there no matter what, right? If I'm not wrong, like.
So there is two things. If we don't,
even with the CAP packaging, the NADs are passed in as part of the CAP package, right? Are they not?
Yes, yeah, they are. But so that's why I'm saying is in the current framework. So that's why I made this thing in the current framework. I believe so there are people that don't like us to generate on the management cluster. They want to do it on the workload cluster. But for me, that doesn't change the architecture, because whether what we don't want to have, I think, is generating them within the workload, within the network function itself. So they either come from the management cluster or from the workload cluster, but not from the NF itself. right?
But
So
I guess sorry, this discussion is probably gone off. But I guess that leads back into some form of dependency operator and also the work that you guys are looking in terms of NF2 infra, right? If I'm not wrong, it just
Well, no.
that's where that lives.
So it doesn't have to. So operator today actually checks if the NADs are there, and then it keeps on reconciling until the NADs are there. So we expecting some higher layers, infrastructure automation layers, to create the NADs that are needed for this deployment. But then we'll be waiting for it to. Well, I mean, it doesn't. So it doesn't mean that you're building your operator this way, but then we did build it this way, and it will be a great sample to use for. As Wim said, general principle, it'll be great if the one who needs it will be checking if the resources are available, because we can't synchronize. It's an asynchronous system in general, which is okay. So if your NAD in your Helm charts is like the FreeFileGC, the orange one from FreeFileGC, then the FreeFileGC one from Orange, they do have a flag to turn off NAD generations. That would be great. So things like this that may need to be modified. So maybe we can just use the Helm charts as is.
No, from experience from playing around with it, I think the charts would need updating no matter what. Yeah, I think, but yeah. Tal is his hand up there.
But I see some benefits of Flux because they do lifecycle management of the charts, so you can upload new charts and automatically pick it up, which is something we wouldn't have. Honestly, we wouldn't want to build in.
I think Steven, maybe okay, let maybe Tal raise, but I think we can fix that. We can do that easily, by the way. But maybe let Tal first.
Go ahead, Tal.
Sure. So I think we're jumping around between a few different topics here, but on the topic of NAD generation and the workload cluster, yes, I'm one of those people who advocates that. But I'm actually agreeing with Wim here that even if we do that, you still need an equivalent of an NAD, right? Some sort of higher level abstraction. That's all I'm saying. Like the actual details should be generated where they're used in the workload cluster, but you'll still need some topology that says, hey, I need this kind of interface somebody else provided for me, but the design, the day zero design still has to be there. All we're talking about really, I think, is day zero design validation, right? Make sure your design is correct and can be deployed on day one, right? Obviously, you don't have to do any of this, right? To Wim's point about robust software, right? You can just try it and see. This is the world of Helm, right? Because Helm generates YAML, right? And there's actually no guarantee that any Helm chart would generate even correct YAML, right? It's a text templating, right? So it might even break in terms of YAML, let alone being deployable on a specific site, right? So we can say live on a wing on a prayer and just try, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, you're going to see our errors. But there's so much we can do to avoid that, right? So there's stuff we can do on day zero. And I will have to push a language like Tosca that, is a very validatable language, very strong in that respect. So you can really validate your design on day zero with all kinds of rules that you can set that you cannot do with just schema validation, right? But otherwise, Wim is exactly correct. If you have logic on the management cluster that is already custom, you know what you need, right? So you can do that validation of the day zero design before you even get to day one. You can give yourself an error and say, this won't work, right? I'm missing some detail here in the blueprint. So I think it's up to us to decide how far we want to go that way. It's not a necessary feature per se, technically, but I think there's so much we can do here, right? And I think this is the current deficiency of the operator SDK approach, where it doesn't even validate the schema, right? That kind of minimal aspect of the inputs, right? You don't know if the inputs are actually valid. Anyway, thanks. A lot of different topics here, right? I touched on all of that.
See, from my point of view, this Flux thing, we have to take ownership now. If this is the approach we are gonna try, then I think I wish someone can volunteer right now. Maybe if Yakara can do that if he wants, to see what is all the nephew compliance and nephew way of doing, and if really wants to integrate with with Flux, and what are the things has to be done as per the POC. So Stephen or Fiacra, if you can
Yeah,
take it up,
I won't get
so
to
that
it
we can
until a
stop.
little
I mean,
later, but yeah, but
yeah.
I think it's probably worthwhile that I'll take
Yeah,
that.
then we can leave it to that, I think,
Mhm.
for a further investigation and with whatever we have discussed. Okay. Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, but
No,
I didn't. I guess the flux approach was just one approach. Obviously, I'm currently looking at just playing around with Argo CD. So maybe I shouldn't to avoid complication, but Argo CD was more in line with a replacement for FigSync. But yeah, we can if there needs to be more something more concrete from the Flux POC, then.
See, we need to decide on that. That's what I'm saying. That like
let's
we have a lot
go
of ideas.
Let's-
We have a lot of ideas, a lot of suggestions. So we have to take this one of the things as part of this. If we really want to go in the Flux way, someone has to just take this and suggestion and implement that.
Does it block the SDK work in some way, or if it doesn't?
No.
Yeah, it shouldn't be. Yeah, I mean, no. So the Helm support is an item, but you know, we can build things while this is being developed.
Yes, it's absolutely worthwhile. We have,
Sorry, Vim was supposed to be next when Tao's but Tao's done. So sorry. Go ahead, Vim.
No. See,
Sorry,
Liam, you go first. Liam. Yeah, you have.
I was just sorry, Wim. I think you had your hand up first. Then I somehow I jumped the queue with go ahead, Vim.
No, it's fine because I have this limit. Go ahead, Liam. Go ahead.
Yeah. No. I'm just saying that whatever we do in the SDK should work with the Flux, or it should work with say an operator type SDK. I don't see why there should be any problem. I mean, the Flux is there, So if we're doing something to generate input for for Helm, I mean, if we say the Flux controller, the approach is already there working, so why not? It just makes life easier to convince people to go for on the Nephew road when they have a lot of install base. It just so I don't think we should say that I think we don't have to say that we're only supporting Flux, but I think it's important to to have that option there for people. It might not be an option that we like to support in the long term, but I do think there's merit in having it.
Yeah, my question is the following, Liam, on to this point. So that's exactly the point: is how do you see this working, right? Because so my view is this: we will get something from the management cluster. We need to pre-process something, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we will pre-process something on the workload cluster, right? And we spit an output. Let's say it's a values.yaml file. How are we going to feed it into Flux?
It'll go through the it'll be put in as something into the package variants when you actually create the package variant.
No, we are too late. We are at the workload cluster, right? So we are at the workload cluster. There's going to be what I call the preprocessor that is going to check NED. So it runs on the workload cluster. Now, how do we feed it back into Flux? I don't see how we are making that work.
The entire
Flux works as long as we stay on the management cluster and we generate values of YAML, which goes into a Helm chart and then render it down. But I'm of the opinion that you have to check this dependency at the workload cluster at the last minute, right? Because that's where you need it. So in other words, no, for the NF, I'm talking specifically in network functions at the moment, right? So not in general Flux, just network functions are a framework that we have. So that means that we are going to generate some values.yaml from there, right? So my view has been always, I feed it into a Helm support function, right? Which Sandeep as a prototype, as a new prototype, I would feed it into the regular Helm rendering system, right? I get an output and I use KRM. So I use a system to basically apply it to the cluster, even can do validation and what have you. That's my approach, right? I think Sandeep's approach is basically I have a special Helm generator and with some new code, and he is doing something similar that I'm doing, but he has specific code for Go, whereas I just use the Helm generator as is, and then I apply it, right? So I don't even feed it because I don't see how I can feed it back into a Flux system, because typically it's GitOps focused and I'm too late already. So we are through that chain already. That's where my reasoning comes from. I just want to see how we can make this work, or maybe clarify my reasoning, why I'm saying this.
Can I just input, like, can we just take this in sort of a document format, saying that what are the problems you see as part of this Flux things, and what are the answer we need, and then we go step by step clarifying, if it is possible. I mean, we can go in that way, I'm saying. So we have already got a document.
But let's add it to the document that Tal initiated, right? Because there's no point in copying. But I think we should basically clarify the challenges that we see with the various approaches.
Yes.
And see how we accommodate it.
I thought I shared it. I think I missed it. Yeah. Fine, then we'll go in that way. Okay, and we'll update this Flux things in the Tal document, and from there we'll go on and see what are the things, challenges required. If we can solve it, if we cannot solve it, we'll take a decision at some point of time whether we're going it or not going it. And if we're going it, someone has to just take an approach what if you suggest. Okay, so I think we can leave it to that for this topic, in my opinion.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Right. So fine, then I have taken the liberty to put one more agenda for this meeting, is about the WG4 items which SIG1 has suggested. So maybe Tal can help us with that. In this meeting, maybe we can decide what are the, I mean, I also wanted to have some clarification. I mean, what are the points? Because initially, let me just try to find out the document. Yeah, so this was the document I had seen way back. So UI, Helm operator, CRD, Tosca, these were the topics. Helms related things were part of the WG4 initially, I thought, but Tal can update on that. What is the latest on a WG4, and what are the requirement for WG4 from the SIG point of view?
My update is that I don't think the work groups were very well designed from the starting point. Right now, Sanaa is putting, so, we talked with Bernard about work group 1 owning modeling. So Tosca moves to there rather than an issue. I think it's all over the place right now. Honestly, we just created a 5th work group too. Is that really necessary for SIG1? I really question all of this. I wasn't part of the initial meeting that we created the work group, but I don't understand why we need so many, and I don't entirely understand how they were grouped together. I think they were trying to.
The meeting logistic would be nightmarish.
It's already nightmarish. It's already nightmarish. We're trying to have the other work groups meet, and they're really struggling to find time. I know Alexei is trying to make a meeting regarding ORAN. Here's the thing. I think what happens is people care about very specific topics and want to discuss them, and they don't care what the forum is. They're just saying, when will I be able to raise this topic? And then we'll say, oh, let's look through the work group list and see which one is the most relevant according to the description. I think what we did in SIG2 regarding task forces is more practical in my mind. The idea being is that, okay, we try to work in the main group, and when it just becomes too much and becomes distracting, then you branch off and create a task force for that specific topic. So it could be, hey, let's branch off on doing ORAN, right? But we don't have to create a whole work group and call it, use cases in ORAN. We branch off for this topic, and if we ever finish branching off, we just close it. It's none of these have to be permanent. The charter given to us by the TSC lets us create as many sub-projects as we want whenever we want. The TSC doesn't care. So yeah, I just think the idea of creating these standing work groups with numbers was a little too much. Anyway, I think I'm distracting here. We have these work groups right now, and next week in the summit, we will present things with the work groups in parentheses at least. Yeah, we'll just see how this works moving on. But I'm currently really confused about what moves where. UI and UX is use cases, but also work group 2 is use cases. And if modeling is part of architecture, but then we all do architecture. I'm lost. But
Okay, so let's take this in a step by step, in a sense, what are the tasks which we have right now? Okay, so we have some sort of SDK task, we are actively working on it. We have that constitute initially, I thought Helm and all those things part of it, maybe the NFU CRD converter and all those things. So where, you know, some kind of a comes under the broader umbrella of designing or developing a NFU SDK. So is it what you call an SDK kind of task force, and what do you approach? And what is the thing which you like, whatever you understand from the meeting, what do you understand, if at all? See, you're not scrapping this one right here. It is there and is going to stay. So what are the tasks you see at the broader level for WG4? I'll ask very specific question for one group at least. Are you there?
Yeah, what was the question, Sandeep? Sorry.
What I'm asking is that what is the current task for WG4? If is the SDK development? No, for not for Summit. In general, what we're doing is the SDK development. Do you see that's part of the working group full? Some sort of is coming under this umbrella or not?
so I guess it's a question for everyone, but
Yeah.
I
the
think
UI and user experience. I mean, the user, I guess we're assuming is vendors in this case, but we can think of two other kinds of users at least.
For me, I thought I'm the user.
Yeah. Who's the user? The telco, right? The customer, I guess. But no, if it's SDK, well, yeah, it affects the telco's experience too, because it affects the architecture in day zero design.
Yeah.
But I'm confused.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
I think so. I think so. You get the users are multifold, right? I mean, the vendors are users, service providers are users. Through SDK, we are actually helping the SDKs to vendors to onboard their workloads. That's their user experience.
That's what I thought initially.
And providing the APIs, for example, some things like Stephen is doing to the topology controller as an example. That is providing an experience for an outbound interface. That's maybe somehow the other orchestrators or OSS systems may integrate with that. That's also user experience. So obviously the UI it's very straightforward. I mean, how to. So I think, Sandeep, I think I think whatever this belongs to this group. That's my
that's what I thought initially, and I'm continuing that because that's interest for me, because I wanted to onboard our all NF and see how easily I can do that.
I kick off the SDK effort, obviously tailor for vendors to get on board. So that's absolutely the primary goal. So the SI or telco may be able to go in and use the same tool to do their own stuff. That's fine. And then we should address the specific use case moving forward. But the P0, the highest priority things for the SDK effort is really to address the vendor's needs.
Okay. Wim, you have something to say? Wim?
My original, I think the UX is broader than purely SDK, because I think from my recollection from this working group, the UX was a question from John, right? Because today we built a UI. So that's one aspect. I'm not saying all of them, but we are building a UI for the demos and stuff like that. But normally SIG1 should give us requirements and stuff like that, but so we are not getting anything. So what John was after, or at least a part of it was after, is what is expected from user experience from the SIG1 point of view. So this was definitely one aspect. So, and for me, that's not necessarily linked to the SDK, but that's another UX aspect that was considered to be.
It's not even related, no.
Correct. So that's why I'm saying is this working group is a mismatch or a mixed match of various topics, and I'm not sure whether it's wise to keep them together somehow, right?
I'm not trying to separate them. Even if there is one or two part of which we are working as per the expectation, I'll be okay. And if you say that SDK and is part of the kind of a user experience for many people, like operator and all those things, so fine for me to continue. If we get more
But for
clarification.
the UX, so
Yeah,
Sandeep,
on the
for
UX.
the UX, you need people. In my view, the most important people for this is the operators, right?
Yes.
For UX, huh? I'm talking now the portal that we have.
Okay, portal. Yes. Okay, so
the SDK side, that's different. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I'll shut up.
I mean, that's what I wanted to clarify. So Tawal also saying that he's a little bit not sure. So I think we'll talk on this one and get more clarification in some other I think SIG1 itself to what they say, and whenever we have a chance. But for the now, I think we can. I mean, what I understand from all of you that we can continue the SDK part. We're anyway not calling. I mean, I don't know whether it's called as working group 4 or not, but it is a task which is, I think, important and everybody agrees. Some of the point is written here, like Yang, Tosca, CRDs, converter. So some sort of comes into picture of SDK. So I think we can continue that until someone really stops us saying that, okay, this is not part of it, and stop it. Okay, so I think I can stop at this and get more clarification on UX point specifically in some other meeting. Okay, I think that's it from my side for this today 2 agenda we had. If anybody else has some sort of a questions to be asked here, can raise their hand and ask. We have another 5 to 7 minutes left. I know I cut down a lot of things there.
So Tal, do you think we are covered for the summit?
I hope so. I'm so stressed with all this, to be honest. I think so, but I need to reach out that everybody is listed, knows that they are listed, that they're preparing a presentation and are ready for it. Something I want to do today, and just chase everything and make sure everybody knows what they're set up to do.
Yeah, Tal, I mean, if you need any help or anything, please give a shout out to me. I can help you with that.
I really appreciate it. I might actually take you up on that to chase some people. Maybe we can separate some of the work.
Yeah. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
Just since this topic is raised, I'll just say maybe some typo is there. Bare metal, did you want to say Sandeep Sharma instead of Sandeep Jaiswal?
Yes, you are absolutely correct. I apologize for this. Yeah.
No problem.
It fills it in automatically.
You can do it too, Sandeep, if you want to.
Oh, is it? I'll do that. But I didn't know that it's Sandeep Sharma, but I just wanted to clarify. Because there's only one Sandeep. I thought Sharma is the one, so but I don't want to do myself. Okay, Liam, you have a raised hand. Is it old one or raised now?
No, it's just actually it's kind of a little slightly off topic. Just Vim on meeting for, well, in my time zone tomorrow morning, I seem to be the only one that reacted. If there's nobody else coming to it, maybe I'll just listen to the recording.
Oh, the reschedule NF to infra meeting. Is that what you're saying? If it's there, I'll attend to.
This time I will use the right bridge.
Oh, I'm really confused because I see actually Sandeep Sharma on mine. I did it correctly. I'm wondering what you're looking at here.
Reload the page.
This is off topic.
Yeah, it is off topic, but I'm suddenly really worried when I look at this page.
Yeah, it's gone actually. Yeah, I just did refresh now. Yeah.
Okay.
Sandeep Sharma now. Yes.
I was surprised. I can't tell the difference between the two Sandeeps.
Hey, it's a lower case on this one. What are you talking about? It's so easy to tell the difference.
Shall I stop?
Stephen, are you going to join?
Yeah. So if the meeting's on, I'll join.
Okay, that's fine then. I'll dial
so that Liam can have more